Good morning. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this joint meeting of the Assembly Committee on Ways and Means and the Senate Committee on Finance. My name is Senator Angie Taylor, and I have the honor of chairing the meeting this morning. Let's start with our roll call. Madam Secretary.
Assemblymember Anderson. Assemblymember Brown-May. Assemblymember Dickman. Assemblymember Hibbets. Assemblymember Mosca. Senator Nguyen. Senator Titus. Assemblymember Watts. Chair Taylor.
And I am present. Thank you very much. Please mark Senator Nguyen present when she arrives. Thank you so much, Madam Secretary. We have really one budget and just four parts, but one department anyway, one division. That's the Department of Motor Vehicles. But before we start, let's just do a little bit of housekeeping as a reminder. We're welcoming everyone here in Carson City. I see a few people in Las Vegas. Welcome. Looks like somebody's on Zoom, and whomever else may be there electronically. Welcome, and thanks for joining us this morning. Reminders, please make sure you turn off your cell phones. Not turn them off. You won't do that anyway, but you can silence them. You can silence them. Please silence your cell phones. When you testify, should you do that, make sure you've signed in at the door. And if you have a business card, let's please make sure we give it to our committee secretaries. Excuse me. When you do approach, please make sure you turn the microphone on. Speak loudly and clearly, and please spell your last name. Say your name and spell your last name the first time you speak. And every time you speak, yes, every time you speak, you must repeat your name. And we will help you. Should you forget to do that, we just want our minutes to be accurate. If anyone is listening and would like to phone in for public comment, when we get to the end of our meeting, that number is 888-475-4499. The meeting ID is 848-1098-8090. Again, public comment will be at the very end of the meeting for 2 minutes each. And then finally, you'll see committee members have laptops open in front of us. We're viewing exhibits and notes and so on. So please, as we look down, please don't take that as a sign of inattention or disrespect. Okay, all of that being said, we will start and finish. We have DMV this morning. DMV is, director is here. Director Laney? Yeah, there she is. Welcome, Madam Director. Please settle in and begin when you are ready.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, I am Tanya Laney, Laney, and I am the Director of the Nevada Department of Motor Vehicles. I'm pleased to be here this morning, and before I get started with my remarks, I would just like to thank this body, the Governor's Office, the Governor's Finance Office, and my amazing staff for carrying the torch this far into legislative session. I've been noticeably absent battling breast cancer, and my team and your guys' teams have been phenomenal in pushing our mission forward at the DMV and being great partners with us and very understanding in my absence to this point. And I thank you guys very much for your kindness and graciousness through this process. And I'm thrilled to be here today.
Madam Director, I just want to interrupt you and just say thank you for being here. I've been there, so I certainly understand that. It's really great to see you. We appreciate your making your way out. It's not always easy when you're in that battle, so thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair. For the record, again, Tanya Laney, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. With me today, I have several administrators from the Department of Motor Vehicles and several support staff here in Carson City and also down in Las Vegas and watching online. So I'm confident that we will be able to answer any questions that you guys have today. At today's hearing, members of the DMV leadership team will highlight some of our significant budget requests, which include requests that contribute to DMV's top priority to continue our transformation efforts, in alignment with our priorities to move most services online while maintaining an emphasis on premier customer service in a secure environment. DMV recognized and has been communicated by this body, based on both personal experiences and those of your constituency, that DMV needed an overhaul to improve processing efficiency of customer transactions to meet demands resulting from increased population and just a demand for improved services in general. DMV remains committed to achieving that goal, and our complete transformation aims to address those concerns. Our transformation efforts intend to modernize legacy systems, thereby improving the efficiency and effectiveness of DMV operations, enhance customer service, and increase the department's online presence, making it easier for customers to conduct business with DMV from anywhere. DMV has published its department transformation effort roadmap on the website and all core DMV services and products that we are working towards transforming. DMV is using an agile methodology for our project effort, allowing us to roll out functions and features along the way so the public can receive the benefits of our efforts. You've probably heard about some of the functions and features we've rolled out, but I'd love to highlight all the great work our team has accomplished already. To name a few, we created the ability for customers to submit online complaints regarding vehicle violations or concerns of fraud. We modernized our appointment system, allowing for ease of use and reminder notifications with the ability to cancel appointments, freeing up capacity in our offices. We rolled out the ability for Nevadans to submit documents electronically for out-of-state and first-time registrations. We've made significant improvements for commercial businesses to process titles through partnerships, and most recently, we rolled out the ability to allow electronic submission of titles for individuals as we rolled out online written drive skills testing. I'm extremely proud of my team and all the work that we've done, but there is more to be done, and our team is excited to be able to continue our efforts to improve the services that we provide. And with that being said, I'll invite Molly Lennon and Susie Pollard to the table with me, the administrators of our research and program management and our Move It budget, so that they can tell you more about our efforts and what that looks like for us moving forward. Thank you for your time.
Good morning, committee members and chair. For the record, my name is Molly Lennon, Lennon, administrator of the Research and Project Management Division, and I'm presenting the DMV Transformation Effort, or DTE, Budget Account 4716 this morning. Budget Account 4716 is comprised of 60 defined positions, 29 FTE, and 31 contractors. Additionally, we provide contract management, software, and monitored access to over 80 implementation and support vendor staff. This division provides program management and implementation services in support of DTE. This customer-focused effort is restructuring and moving DMV's processes and transactions to a new cloud-based architecture using Salesforce, running on Amazon Web Services and other enabling tools. The program is increasing online service availability, improving processes, and adding channels of communication, thereby improving customer service quality and efficiency. We're excited to report that over the past 2 years, our efforts have yielded recognition for the Government Experience Awards 2024 from the Center of Digital Technology and 2 Cashman Good Government Finalist Awards from the Nevada Taxpayers Association. And most importantly, our constituents are responding positively. I would like to take this opportunity to thank this body and the previous members of the committee for your support, as we would not have these opportunities to improve our services for Nevadans without it. 4716's budget request will support planned efforts in the upcoming biennium, focused on development of our remaining core vehicle services, and start the design of licensing and credentialing. Key program updates and roadmapped plans for implementation in the upcoming biennium include Turbo Titles expansion, on track for April. Currently, the pilot is live in our Sahara and Elko offices. DTE is on track to deliver almost 100 vehicle features by fiscal year 26 Q4, most notably specialty plates and online payment options for new registrations, application for disabled placards, expanded movement permits, Nevada business account creation, and fleet registration. Design of DMV core credential products is on track to start design in fiscal year 27. DTE anticipates completing vendor selection for a technical IV&V vendor to validate our full DMV technical architecture, as well as identified security tools as requested in our budget submission. You can find our DTE newsletters and our product roadmap on our DMV website. Our roadmap outlines our goals for each biennium, with 26 and 27's focus on core vehicle, 28 and 29 on credentials, as well as final integrations with AMVA, AWS, and other stakeholders. Our roadmapped plans are contingent upon budget approval. The DMV has relied heavily on vendor support to deliver improved services for customers and establish long-term operating models. The program is executing on a 6-phase transition and adoption plan to ramp down vendor support for vehicle core product by the end of fiscal year 27. DTE's goal is to minimize need for vendor and contractor support for our 28-29 implementation, and we will provide more information as we transition to in-house support over the next 2 years. Ongoing operating, staffing, and implementation costs have been included in our budget ask for the upcoming biennium. Thank you for allowing the short program update. I would now like to highlight the following decision units affecting 4716. Decision Unit E301. This decision unit requested the continuation of 2 master service agreement contractors in 26 and 27 for the backfill of 2 administrative services division positions, which allow DMV staff from administrative services to continue their support of the finance and accounting portion of the transformation effort. I'd like to note these 2 positions are in addition to the continuation of 29 knowledge services contractors requested as part of 4716 continued costs. Decision Unit E550. This decision unit supports continuation of the DMV transformation effort. Included in this request are ongoing costs for required software and implementation services. Renewals, including Salesforce software licensing, MuleSoft licensing to support middleware capabilities and integration efforts, ABBY software and configuration providing optical character recognition and intelligent document verification, renewals of Box software and implementation services for our content services and document retention, retrieval, and management, Drawbridge software and support for finance and accounting development, Nintex software, which provides template management and document generation, Tableau software for reporting services and analytics for the DMV, continued Amazon Web Services for contact center, cloud data storage, and tools to support data conversion and migration, continued implementation services from Slalom for Salesforce, ABBY, Drawbridge, and Nintex, a request in fiscal year 26 to support a technical IV&V vendor to complete validation of our full future state architecture, request in fiscal year 26 and 27 for identified security tooling needs to ensure our user and platform monitoring is proactive, robust, and maintains the security of the public's data. Continued quality assurance and org change monitoring from Mission Critical Partners, LLC. This includes my remarks on budget account 4716. I thank you for your time, and I'm happy to address any questions you might have.
Thank you so much, Administrator Lennon. We do have some questions, and we're just going to go budget by budget, Madam Director, if you would. So we do have a few questions this morning. Let's see. We will start with Assemblymember Anderson.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for this presentation. It's nice to see all of you today. Could you just provide an update on the tasks completed for the Department of Transformation's effort from the 2023-2025 biennium?
Of course. Thank you for the question. Molly Lennon for the record. In years 1 and 2, which bled into this previous biennium, dealer title pilots versions 1 and 2 were released, including foundational work for compliance enforcement. We added ABBY functionality for document recognition and OCR capability to reduce manual document handling. We achieved a dealer title turnaround time of 5 days, which is lower than the legacy solutions turnaround time. And as Director Laney also mentioned, we partnered to, at this point, process over 33,000 titles for our dealer partners with a partner. Foundational design and development for our customer portal for both individuals and the foundation for businesses was complete. New registration version 1, both pilot and expansion, was complete for application online. New standard titles or turbo titles, version 1 was released to our pilot offices, Sahara and Elko, and full expansion is slated for April of this year. Finance and accounting work stream has made strides in payments and fees platform. Our box implementation has completed Salesforce integration and configuration work and document migration planning. And DMV parallel efforts, we completed design, development, and release of AWS Connect for our contact center, which went live in July 2024. And if I could share a few statistics highlighting the success of these products. Rapid registration, over 10,500 applications have been submitted since August, go live online. Our turbo titles, over 2,000 applications, and just the 2 of our 18 offices that we're piloting have been submitted since January 13th. For our MV Solutions insurance and verification modernization, 100% of our insurers are on our NV IVS portal, and MV Solutions is managing our book of business for us now rather than in-house. As of February, we are sending more electronic notices than by mail. So we have recently started a paperless DMV e-notice initiative to support increasing the amount of electronic availability to customers versus mailing, because they're making it known that they would rather communicate electronically. AWS Connect, since July, has served over 31,000 customers, helped via chat per month. An average of 5,640 of those customers per month choose Live Agent, which demonstrates effective drive of self-service. In fiscal year 24, our original call center had helped 196,837 customers over the phone with a wait of approximately 13 to 14 minutes. In fiscal year 25, after go live of our modernized contact center from July to January, we've helped 367,915 customers, 148K of those via call, 220,000 of those via chat, with an average wait of 9 to 10 minutes. And I've already mentioned the stats for EDS, over 33,000 dealer titles that have been submitted online for our dealer partners, which is a huge impact.
May I have a follow-up? Thank you. So huge successes, it sounds like, great numbers. And thank you for trying to help those of us that are not in that world understand a little bit more about what those numbers really mean. But just out of curiosity, we have to be realistic. Sometimes the projects also have unexpected issues. How have you been addressing those, like when they arise? Do you do it on the fly? Do you sit down and like say, oh, well, maybe it'll work itself out? How are you handling those issues that we all know will happen probably in just about every single project?
It's a great question. For the record, Molly Lennon. The program has built-in regular ceremonies. We hold quarterly planning sessions. Our executive leadership team is very involved. We have governance in terms of an operating committee and a steering committee that we escalate issues to. And quarterly, after every planning session, we address resource issues, raise risks that impact just the quarter, and of course use our standard program management methodology to track on an IRAD if there are larger program issues. We do have two IT groups running at the same time. So aligning how we address the technical issues is something that we work on consistently. And as we move into this transition period over the next 2 years, DMV will be taking more of a hands-on approach with our vendor staff and making sure that communications and tracking mechanisms are all aligned so that we can continue to support effectively.
May I ask one last question? Thank you. So with those robust involvement and reporting, do you ever feel the need to include the legislative branch in those reports? I'm not asking for more reports. I want to make sure that's clear. We do not need more paper. But if it ever gets to the point that you feel that it is important for the legislative branch because of the financials, are you able to contact right away the officer? How do you handle those situations when it looks like there could be a need for more money or possibly a refund of money? You never know.
Molly Lennon, for the record. We work very closely with our Administrative Services Division and the directors. When situations like that arise, knowing that we have onboarded most of our vendors, but we're still looking at security tools, we have a mainframe effort that is on the horizon. As soon as any deviation comes up, we are communicating with GFO, with LCB. Our directors reach out to the governor's office to make sure that there's support on strategy. It is a very large effort and another large effort on the horizon. So.
You're welcome, Assemblymember. Chair Watts?
Thank you, Chair. And I also have a few questions, if that's okay. So I think I have questions that kind of fall into two categories. One is around timeline, and then one is around budget. So I think since we just heard a couple of questions about the timeline and accomplishments up to here, I'll start there. So you did touch on it a little bit, but can you kind of provide an overview of what the main planned activities for the DTE effort are during the upcoming biennium?
Thank you, Assemblymember Watts. For the record, Molly Lennon. Yes, so I mentioned some of this, so apologies if I'm repeating myself. Fiscal year 26, as we mentioned, DTE is on track to deliver almost 100 vehicle features by fiscal year 26 Q4, most notably the specialty plate options, new online registration applications, online application for disabled placards, expanded movement permits, business account creation, and fleet registration, which will comprise all of our core vehicle product. In fiscal year 27, transformation of DMV core credential products is on track to start design. We're going to be focusing on non-commercial driver's licenses and identification cards first. In fiscal year 27, we will also be looking at vendor tool selection. If budget submitted is approved, we anticipate completing selection for a technical IV&V vendor, a one-time cost to review our entire future state technical architecture, as well as our technical documentation. And identified security tools listed in our budget request, which I can go into more detail if you guys would prefer, but there's a lot of technical acronyms. But there are four tools that will really continue to bolster our security posture, especially as we move into credentialing modernization and we start dealing with more PII. We want to be sure that we're protecting the public's data.
Thank you for that. So it sounds like over the upcoming fiscal year, essentially rolling out those vehicle transactions. The vast majority, if not all of those, will now be kind of moved over. You'll be able to do them online. Then in the fiscal year 2027, it sounds like starting to move some of the driver's license and ID card elements, and then a lot of some of the kind of core infrastructure work that you talked about, kind of having it all validated by an independent entity to make sure that we can really take all not just the new functionalities, but the nuts and bolts of the system and begin to migrate to the new platform. So that is extremely helpful. And then, we at the, I guess, almost a year ago, April IFC meeting, we got some updates on the timeline. Obviously we had originally hoped to have the project completed by 2026. Now 2029 is the planned completion date. And I know that we had some discussion then. I think there was a lack of clarity. So now that we have a little bit more time, could you just give us a high-level explanation of some of the factors that led to reconsidering and adjusting that timeline and why we saw the need for kind of an additional 3 fiscal years to complete the project?
Thank you for the question. For the record, Tanya Laney, Director, Nevada DMV. Molly had mentioned earlier that we have somewhat of a parallel effort going on. So we have our team designing for all of our new functionality online, and at the same time, we've been addressing our situation with our mainframe. We have built and put as much online as we can that the current CAR's existing mainframe, which is an old 30-year-old Cobalt-built system, is able to support. So what we've seen is to keep the momentum going on the project, we've asked the staff to do as much as they possibly can, knowing that the mainframe migration was still under review and assessment, which Susie will talk a little bit more about when she gets to her budget unit. But that slowed the momentum of being able to put additional services online because we don't have that core mainframe to support the additional volume and activity happening on the front end. Ideally, we would have been able to get the mainframe addressed sooner, but because of the age of the hardware and the spider web of the custom-built code that has been created over the last 30 years, that effort was monumental. And I can't thank my team enough and our partners with AWS and Slalom and Salesforce in being patient with us as we were undergoing that review. We do have a great idea of what that mainframe looks like now. Again, taking into consideration that it is 30 years of archaic code, there's other stuff that's discovered as they're unwrapping that system to see the best route to take to lift that into a modern code that our staff can continue to program in to enhance the service offering that we're doing on the front end. That is the biggest reason for the delay, but we've tried to the best of our abilities not to slow the momentum to get the immediate value out to the public of things that they could submit to us online, but our staff are still working on the back end in the old system to manually put that information in that the customers are submitting to us. Once that mainframe is addressed, it'll be a seamless transaction for the customer where they're entering the information online and it's updating our mainframe in our database as it should to eliminate the manual entries that our staff have to do today until those two are married up. And I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Yes, that is helpful, although, yeah, and I know it's a different budget account. Obviously, all things related to technical and IT infrastructure have some linkage, so I will probably circle back around on this a little bit more as we start to talk about the mainframe issue. So I'd like to move on to the budget. As you know, during the last biennium, we had a projected budget of, I'll just use round numbers, about $125 million. Then during the April 2024 IFC meeting, that went up to about $425 million. So that was an increase of $300 million, or I guess about triple of what we had been planning previously. We have now gotten some updated information from your department indicating that the projection is now around $287 million. So that's great. So it's $137 million less than we had last heard. So kudos to that. Obviously, though, going up 300, down 137, we're still $163 million above what we had heard last biennium. And I think the big issue is for us to understand is that fluctuation, right? It's pretty significant both ways. And so can you just give us some additional detail on why we're seeing some of those very significant fluctuations in the projected project budget?
Thank you for the question. Again, for the record, Tanya Laney, Director, Nevada DMV. I had mentioned earlier the 30-year-old archaic system that we're dealing with. As the team is in there creating efficiencies on transactions and unraveling what our core data looks like on the mainframe, it's like peeling back the layers of an onion. And with every layer that we go into, we're finding additional complexities or software that we need to address certain issues that are going on in our system to be able to get the most efficient transaction done at the end of the day. So the change in the pricing is really based on, we don't know what the system looks like at its core until we're addressing those specific transactions and the issues pop up that identify that we need an additional tool to address it, or that we need an additional layer of security to be able to move the transaction from an in-office transaction to an online transaction. And that's the bulk of what we're looking at really is because the system is so old and we're dealing with over 800 transactions that the agency does. As we're working through those 800 transactions, we know more and more about what our system capabilities are. And then we're able to find additional efficiencies as well, to your point, to roll back some of the costs that we've had, to be able to address things more streamlined, combine two transactions into one, things of that nature, so that we're creating the most efficient transaction possible while being fiscally minded, that we only have so much money and so much of a piece of the pie to be able to get this system built. And so Molly had mentioned earlier that we have a steer co-committee that's combined of myself and the deputy director as the executive team and all the administrators, any of the issues that pop up, to answer the question that was asked earlier by Assemblywoman Anderson, we take every single one of those issues and review them and say, what can we do to make the most efficient decision? What's it going to cost? And then we have to come together and put the pieces of the puzzle together for the entire project to see what's the downstream impact. Is it something that can wait? Is it something that we have to address now? Because if we don't address it, then we won't be able to continue on with the transaction. So again, it's an onion. We're peeling back the layers, and we're trying to create as much efficiency as possible as we move on, but it also uncovers some very challenging technical layers that we're finding as we move through the transactions.
Thank you. And then I think, obviously, given all of that, one of the big pieces of uncertainty for us is where do things go from here? And are we going to get an update in April 2026 that has some more significant fluctuations? So could you, again, at least at a high level, indicate to us kind of how you're feeling about the latest projections and what issues could potentially lead to? We know that I think it's probably fair to say there's going to be some sort of change, but can you kind of let us know what issues may arise that might cause significant changes in the latest projected cost for the project?
Thank you for the question, Molly Lennon, for the record. I think I'll start by saying, the projections have changed, and a lot of the reason for that, the $424 million was a worst-case scenario, right? As Director Laney mentioned, we're peeling back an onion, and as we discover things, we're able to take a closer look. We've examined the development effort, including those 800 products and features which have to be built in the new platform, and how we can migrate vendor work to DMV staff. There are two major things from my perspective that the program will face over the next biennium. One is the mainframe lift. Technologically, that's going to be our biggest impact. And right now, we are working with vendors who are collaborating, and we're all working towards the same goal. So our confidence is high that if we do go down that path, that we'll find success. It will make our integrations and our data exchanges much easier, and eventually increase our velocity on the program side. The people piece we haven't addressed, right? The transition to our in-house staff takes time. I mentioned the 6-phase transition effort. We're building a team of 31 people that's made up of existing staff, a small contingency of contractors, and existing staff comes from both our IT unit and our program management unit, but they all have to be upskilled. That impacts our vendor staff because they are contracted to knowledge share and transfer all of the knowledge from our development efforts to our staff. So over the next 2 years, our goal is to transfer, to ramp down vendor support on vehicle core. But if we run into problems either with budget for training or retaining staff, anything like that could impact how well we're able to transition. And I think the people piece is one of the biggest parts of a program this large, especially with technology that we have to call out.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And, again, please keep us updated on that. And I think I would be particularly interested in any additional details on that people piece that we should know. Right? We want to make sure, and obviously there are some opportunities for work programs and things, but if there are issues with in particular with salary or other issues that we think are going to make it difficult for us to get the people that we need to keep this on track, that's something that we really need to know about so that we can try and make sure that we have that set up for success on the front end, so that we don't end up in that situation where we haven't been able to recruit or retain these individuals, and now that's cascading into additional delays and additional expenses. So that's my request. And then I have a very technical final question. It looks like the projected costs for fiscal year 2025, in the last update that was provided to us, do not reflect the $2.6 million supplemental highway fund appropriation that was recommended by the governor. So can you just clarify, is that still happening? Do you anticipate still needing that supplemental appropriation for fiscal year 25 that we're in, or not?
Thank you for the question, Molly Lennon. For the record, no, we have made adjustments to the program from within related to staffing and tooling that's allowed us to remove that ask for fiscal year 25.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair, for the questions.
You're welcome, Chair. Senator Titus?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a comment. When you use the term archaic systems, I started out in Fortran, and that started before many of you in this room were born, frankly. So I know archaic systems. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I think she's volunteering to help as you dig through some of this, so you want to get her contact information. Okay, I do have a couple of questions. I want to turn a little bit to the contractors as you dig through all of this and so on. In your request, or I guess it came from the governor's budget request, was for 26 contractors, right? MSA contractors would be required to support this work. Can you help me understand why it's so many?
Sure, absolutely. Our baseline for contractors will fluctuate. I think if you look back through the program effort, we go from 31 to 27 to 26, back up to 31 in terms of the number of contractors. Even though the budget ask may stay the same, we have multiple initiatives underway while we're also trying to keep the train on the tracks, so to speak, keeping our day-to-day operations going. So in order to supplement the vendor staff at a lower cost, because the contractors are at a lower cost, we are hiring senior programmers, BAs, developers, database warehouse administrators, really to affect change in all of the initiatives, whether it's titles and registration or it's building our data landing zone in AWS. They are across all of our pods and offering those supporting mechanisms as we transition to our DMV staff.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to just dig into that just a little bit more. So for this biennium, how many do you think we're going to need for the biennium to support the DTE effort? And do you expect that to fluctuate as well?
Molly Lennon, for the record, thank you for the question. Right now we are at 27. We did reduce our contractors by 2 in order to save the funds that I just mentioned in order to avoid the supplemental. And we do anticipate hiring those 2 additional back on July 1 if budgets are approved. That would bring us to 29. What I will say is when we review our resources on a quarterly basis, we adjust our contractors based on our focus on the roadmap for that quarter. So if our skill set needs change, we need a resource that's more focused on mainframe integration with our DTE effort or something to that effect, we may release a contractor and hire one that may come in at a higher cost or a lower cost. So that it may fluctuate by a few, I think, just progressively as we move through the program, but wouldn't go over the allocated budget. We've been able to stay under that for our contractors.
Thank you, Administrator Lennon. Senator Wynn, I believe you have a question.
I do. Kind of following up with some of those about some of these vendors. And I'm going to butcher this because I can't say these words together. So I'm going to just spell it out. Can you explain the projected increase for vendor costs for the 25-27 biennium compared to the amount approved for the current biennium, which I think was about, 53.7 and that, but there was an increase as it relates to SLALOM. I know, I can't say that. My mouth doesn't work that way.
Thank you, Senator Wynn. Molly Lennon, for the record. Yes, so we had actually anticipated increasing our slalom resources in the middle of 2024. Unfortunately, funding didn't allow that. The goal in 24 was to increase velocity, to increase our ability to transition to our in-house staff without impacting velocity on our roadmap. we have continued forward with that increased ask into the next biennium because we believe it will lower the risk with our transition efforts. Because again, our vendors will be very impacted by helping us upskill and shadow and pass on all of the technical and the program management efforts to our in-house staff. We do anticipate, and our goal is that vendor support for Vehicle Corps reduces by the end of the biennium and going into 28-29.
So that kind of answers my question. So right now, you've determined that DMV staff can't fill that contractor role, but it's your intention moving into future biennium that hopefully by 27, 20, oh my gosh, that seems like forever far away, but I know it's not, that will be able to, our reliance on those contractors will go down.
Molly Lennon for the record. Yes, that's correct, both in our contractor bucket with Knowledge Services and our vendors like Slalom.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I'm not going to make you say slalom on the record, so don't worry. I do. Yeah, I can't roll my R's either, but I can say slalom. I'm sorry. Just saying. Sorry. I'm here for you, though. I'm here for you. I'll say it for you. That's true. But on slalom, right? Can you just tell us a little bit more about what do those folks do?
Thank you for the question, Molly Lennon, for the record. Slalom is our implementation partner. They are driving the major program management of the development and delivery effort. So right now we have 51 approximately vendor staff through Slalom, some part-time, some full-time. They really make up our architects, our integrations, leads. They do provide some organizational change, but predominantly it's design and development. It's the skill set in our future state tech stack that we don't have internally, allowing us to build in Salesforce, utilize MuleSoft, and the other tools that I've identified.
Thank you, Administrator Lennon. Are there any other questions on this budget, Budget 4716? Chair Watts?
Thank you, Chair. And this is, I guess, a little bit more of a comment than a question. And, there are several modernization efforts underway at the state. And I think one of the things that we've seen with a couple of them as they're getting close to completion are questions around ongoing expenses, whether that's software licensing. And I think we do have a sense of some of those software licensing costs in some of what's been submitted here. And so I think that's probably helpful. Then understanding staffing costs as well. I know there have been some other systems where we have seen smaller, and so they've had lower yearly kind of implementation costs, but then have essentially the same amount of costs for ongoing maintenance of the system. I think that's a concern. I think we know that should not be the case here, but one of the things that I would ask is that the department start to kind of look at all those pieces together. What's the staffing need going to be to support the system following implementation? What are those ongoing licensing and other associated costs? And to get us a sense of that, I think that will probably also change a little bit as we get through the next several fiscal years. But I think it would be helpful for us to start to get a grasp of that sooner rather than later, and to understand how that also may be evolving, primarily so that we just have a sense of it and aren't surprised when we see that we're still going to have probably several $1 million that are going to be needed to maintain the system moving forward. So, like I said, less of a question. I don't necessarily need that right now, but I think that would be something that it would be very helpful for the members of this body to understand.
Thank you, Chair. Any other questions on the DTE effort, this budget? None? Okay, thank you, Administrator Lennon. We appreciate it. We're going to go on. The hearing continues with DMV, but now we're going to go on to Automation 4715.
Good morning, committee members. For the record, my name is Susie Pollard, Pollard, Administrator of the Motor Vehicle Information Technology Division, Budget Account 4715. The Move It division is comprised of 76 FTEs and provides IT services and support for the department. These services include customer service, desktop support, help desk support, computer operations, infrastructure and network support, systems and platform support, application development, software development lifecycle management, and data engineering and science. Move It is involved with enhancing the DMV systems, supporting the internet and kiosk applications, maintaining the department's personal computers and printers statewide, and building safe and secure interfaces between DMV and other agencies. The Move It budget is funded with a combination of highway funds and intra-agency fund transfers. Today, I would like to highlight the following decision units affecting our division. Decision Unit E300. This decision unit requests one-shot funding to allow the department to migrate the existing production legacy mainframe environment to a modern AWS cloud solution. The DMV legacy system is at the end of life phase in application and database technology. We are currently experiencing increases in latency and slowdowns that are often difficult to troubleshoot and pinpoint due to the age of this system. We have met with our hosting provider, OCIO, that is also wanting out of the mainframe support operations and plans to decommission the state's mainframe once the last remaining agency is migrated off. Also, our federal partner, AMBA, is also in the process of retiring their mainframe operations in January of 2028, when they will no longer support our mainframe connection. A majority of our staff that supports our legacy system will be eligible for retirement within the next 5 years. We have had an incredibly difficult time finding resources with the necessary skill set to continue to support this aging application. A significant portion of the environment, such as our data, mainframe processes, and Power Builder front end, requires porting into AWS. We finished a thorough engagement with AWS and partners to provide a roadmap, budget, and plan to lift and refactor the existing mainframe operations to the cloud-based solution. This effort will allow us to retire our current mainframe operations and have an updated, secure, cloud-based solution to support mission-critical DMV processes and complement the DTE project efforts. As you are aware, the DMV is currently rebuilding our application suite and business products within Salesforce. However, that effort, labeled DTE or DMV DTE, is scheduled to take several years. While a significant portion of the CAR's legacy system functionality will be replaced through our DTE program, a portion of the environment still needs to be ported into the provider cloud due to the data, integration, and security needs. DMV current daily operations are at risk if we do not move forward with the initiative. DTE will continue to be without required integrations and data exchanges. Mainframe costs will continue to increase for the agency, and DMV will not be able to decommission all the systems or compute that reside within CARs. This decision unit was submitted with an estimate prior to the full assessment of the environment. The in-depth assessment that was a comprehensive review of our entire legacy system has now been complete, and we are expecting an updated quote based on the information from this assessment. Once we have final numbers, we anticipate submitting a budget amendment no later than next week. Outcomes for the mainframe migration and modernization are an increased risk reduction. We will be able to address the challenge of a retiring workforce with mainframe skills, reduce single points of failure. Right now, our mainframe is at a single point of failure, so if anything happened to the mainframe, there is no disaster recovery to fail over to a hot site. Improved recovery and business continuity, improved security features and compliance capabilities. We'll be able to improve our agility, accelerate the DTE initiative, reduce the time and effort to respond to policy or legislative changes. I think this body will be very happy about that, and our ability to integrate with our data. The data in its current format is married up to the mainframe, so it's very antiquated mainframe technology tied to an IBM operating system. We anticipate lower operating costs, reducing the high mainframe maintenance and operational costs for infrastructure management. We've been meeting with OCIO to align on their plans to decommission the mainframe. And our discussions is they plan, we're looking at like $3 million ongoing costs at current, but when we're the last agency on the mainframe, those costs could increase to $9 million per year. Enhancing the customer experience, we'll be able to optimize performance and availability, improve user interfaces and accessibility, enhance mobile and web capabilities, and increase response times by replacing Power Builder, our current green screen technology. Decision Unit E301. This decision unit requests funding to add a new deputy administrator position. Establishing the deputy administrator in the unclassified service over the Move It functional teams will help break down organizational silos and move us into a modern DevOps culture. Historically, the Move It teams were all functioning separately, making independent architectural design choices that were not always consistent with each other. Those design choices were not always made with efficiency, automation, performance, and scalability in mind. In some cases, work originating from different teams was unnecessarily duplicated, creating data quality issues. The result of siloed design choices in the past causes difficulties in maintaining, enhancing, automating, transforming, and modernizing these systems today. As we transition to our new environments, we are leveraging industry standard best practices to realign responsibilities within the specific teams. This deputy administrator leadership position will focus on the overall big picture technical aspects of the business. It is key to cultivating and enforcing a culture of collaboration among all technical teams and promoting the mindset of Move It operating as one large team. This position will have oversight of approximately 73 FTEs and interacts with many technical vendors and MSAs. The DMV is one of the largest customer-facing agencies that supports major DMVs in all 17 geographical locations. Being able to provide support as well as communicate any outages or work impacts is critical to our successful operations. The deputy will be located within operations to oversee the day-to-day running of DMV technology. This allows the administrator to focus on departmental priorities and strategic alignment with the department's mission and vision. The administrator manages all aspects of budgets and contracts for the division. Both the administrator and deputy administrator work to align on the division and department's priorities such as replacement equipment, software requests and replacements, security tooling, and best practices to support the DMV with their technology needs. Decision Unit E302. This decision unit requests the continuation of funding for 4 MSAs to support our legacy operation CARS. Funding for the 4 full-time MSA contractors will continue to allow critical subject matter experts support on our DTA efforts and allow the contractors to focus on supporting and securing daily operations until we are able to retire the mainframe environment. Decision Unit E349. This decision unit requests funding for the VX Rail hardware and software. Nevada DMV is currently leveraging on-premise infrastructure known as VX Rail that hosts over 200 virtualized servers and 25 virtual desktop machines necessary for the department to continue to function and conduct business to the public. 40% of these virtualized servers are related to the CARS services. There are many DMV critical applications that still rely upon the on-premise environment. The existing infrastructure is over 6 years old and is coming to end of life and support in October of 2025 and must be replaced. This environment supports business-critical application functions across all our branch DMV locations, such as shared drives, directories, distribution and deployment, print and file services, network services, and security. I want to thank this committee for all the support in the past, and thank you for allowing me to share our budget enhancements. And please let me know if there are any follow-up questions, which I'm sure there will be.
Thank you, Administrator Paula. Yes, there are a few questions, but thank you for sharing that information. We're going to start with Assemblymember Mosca.
Thank you, Chair. And I'll start in E301. And yes, that was very helpful to understand, especially about the new deputy administrator, about breaking down organization silos and efficiency. But I do have a few follow-ups, please, Chair. Yeah, thank you. If you could, I know you talked about what the deputy administrator would do, but how would that differ from the current IT manager 3 who's doing all that work right now?
I thank you for the question through the chair, Senator Taylor, to Assemblymember Mosca.
Oh, please go direct.
Oh, correct. Okay. So bear with me as I read through my notes because there's a lot to unpack here. So the deputy administrator leadership position will focus on the overall big picture technical aspects of the business. It is key to cultivating and enforcing a culture of collaboration among all the technical teams and promoting the mindset of Move It, operating as one large team. And so right now there was a lot of silos going on. And for the IT Manager 3 today, what we've done is a bit of a restructuring, so bear with me. The position will have 2 direct reports, one that manages the software development lifecycle side of MOVEit, and one that manages the infrastructure and operations side of MOVEit. Through the chain of command, this position will ensure that all MOVEit managers and supervisors follow established organizational requirements and personnel processes in the required timelines. The benefit to the IT Manager 3 and how things are currently operating today, the current IT Manager 3 has 6 direct reports and oversight of the MOVEit team's customer service, infrastructure and network, legacy support of 2 different teams, data engineering and science, and MOVEit architect consisting of applications development and systems and platforms. Involvement in the day-to-day operations of each of these teams and the associated personnel issues is a significant load. The addition of the deputy administrator position allows for better balancing of responsibilities within MOVEit. The position will directly oversee 2 grade 44 managers, the IT Manager 3, and 1 Master IT Professional 2. To align better with a modern DevOps culture, those 2 grade 44 managers will then divide the MOVEit teams into a software development lifecycle group and an infrastructure and operations group. Each grade 44 manager will then have 4 direct reports and 4 teams to manage. Each manager will have a more specialized area of focus and be able to give greater attention to strategic planning, staff training, and daily operations. The number of teams the current IT Manager 3 oversees is a significant load. It does not allow for more detailed attention to daily operations, deep analysis, and strategic planning in all areas. Creating the new deputy administrator position will allow for better distribution of high-level MOVEit management responsibilities. So I hope that answered your question. That was very thorough.
Thank you. Yes, that was a very thorough. I mean, I think you kind of answered my 2 other questions, but I'll just make sure, because it's also new to me, so I'm trying to understand. But you did talk about breaking into the 2 groups, which makes sense to me. But how do you see that as helping with the department transformation effort project implementation specifically?
I thank you for the question, Assemblymember Mocha, Susie Pollard for the record. As we're restructuring in MOVEit too, so as I had mentioned, there were a lot of silos. And so putting a leader over the strategic, to allow MOVEit to also upskill and learn these new systems, there's a significant level of effort. And so it's to help the managers align on what needs to be done with their staff. I would say this position is the neck that turns the head. And because we are, horizontally expanding our technology stack, it will provide more focused efforts on where these staff need to be able to upskill, as well that balance within the operations. Today, the DMV, we get about 105 tickets daily, which yield to 26,000 tickets over the year. So we're a very, very busy customer-facing unit, and it's always all hands on deck if we run into issues. So I thank you for the question.
Yeah, thank you. That was my last question, but I think you answered it. Is just they're going to also help with managing daily activities and addressing personnel issues. So thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Assemblymember Chair Watts.
Thank you, Chair. So I just had one question. With some of this reorganization helping support the department transformation effort, and again, I recognize that there's a lot of interplay between these 2 budget accounts. Could you discuss why the group that would be kind of supporting the DTE effort isn't being moved over into the DTE?
Thank you for the question, Assemblymember Watts, Susie Pollard for the record. Let me go through some of the stuff that's going on behind the scenes. So part of our restructuring effort supports the needs of DT along with our future state in AWS. As part of the lift and refactor that we've requested in this biennium, AWS and partners are going to help pull together an operating model and transition plans to support the upskilling of the team. So there is training that needs to occur, as well as that balance of keeping operations running. Through this effort, we will identify any support gaps and we will address it through training. We have done some preliminary learning needs assessments with AWS, and staff are currently taking training as part of that effort. So I think that addresses what we're trying to accomplish out of the mainframe lift and refactor. director. However, we are also in the early phases of our transition plan within DTE and have some of the Move It team taking Salesforce and MuleSoft training that was provided by the Dieter funding, so thank you for that. There was a series of workshops conducted that helped us pull together the transition plan. We will be revising the effort to complement the resource needs within moving our car system to the AWS cloud. And so what we're working on as part of the effort with the mainframe lift and modernization is we're going to be doing a far more skill analysis on what that cloud operation is going to look like. Yes, we believe we're going to be efficient, but we also want to make sure that we have skilled staff that are able to step in and assume those roles and responsibilities. Our restructuring efforts within Move It do align to the future state that supports better collaboration, a DevOps culture, and eliminating the team silos. And that's where we run into a lot of operational challenges is because of our siloed, antiquated system, it's all hands on deck to do root cause analysis on where the impacts are. So I hope that answered your question.
Thank you. It does somewhat, and this probably is just something that we can follow up offline on, and part of it is, again, for me to understand some of the big picture as well. I think that the goal is after we've kind of completed this DTE overhaul effort, that essentially that budget will kind of get ramped down, and automation or whatever, or if that's what we continue to call it or whatever we call it, is where all of the IT infrastructure will kind of be housed. So that might have helped me answer my own question. But yeah, as we talk about kind of where we end up in the future, I think that's helpful because again, I know that there are things in this that are connected to and supporting the transformation effort, and so that's kind of where my question is coming from. But it sounds like it is, but it's also doing other things that are going to be ongoing, and so that's why they're going to be housed here. And again, we're probably going to have some of the costs that are currently associated with building and implementing the DTE some of those are going to be ongoing, and so we're going to see some of those positions and some of those costs eventually integrated over into this budget account. So
Go ahead.
you're welcome to respond if you want, but.
And if you don't mind, Chair Tanya Laney, for the record, to add some non-technical substance, because I am not a technical person. Right now, we're on a teeter-totter, right? As the DTE effort is moving forward, we're putting more work on to Move It's plate to support with an aging infrastructure and the issues that pop up with adding an additional layer onto what they're already doing. Eventually, what we're going to see is we're able to get off of the mainframe and our staff for upskilling, it's going to start to tip. And to your point, the resources are going to start to be able to focus on future state because they're not overwhelmed focusing on an aging infrastructure and everything that we're putting on top of their plates to keep that going with the layer of the new technology on top of the old technology. So for a short time, they're going to have an additional workload, and that'll start to decrease as we move over into the future state.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Between the two of us, I think we managed to get it into layman's terms for the non-technical folks. So, thank you, Chair.
If it's okay, if I could add a couple of things, I think that might add clarity. Molly Lennon for the record.
Please go ahead.
Two things I'd like to highlight. For the first few years of the DTE effort, all of the agnostic teams in IT have been supporting future state already. So like our infrastructure, our service desk, and like Director Laney said, that has sort of been piled on innately because they have to manage those platforms. So we have a head start in our agnostic teams in IT. And I'd also like to highlight that that 31 size 31 team for transition includes multiple 4715 vacancies who we're hiring for future state skill sets specifically. So those will participate in the DTE effort directly and then end up merging back into IT when all is said and done.
Thank you, Administrator Lemon. Senator Nguyen?
Thank you. And this is kind of related, kind of not, kind of in some of the budget and budget policy priorities that have come from your agency. I recognize that we desperately need to make this move as fast as we can to modernize our IT programs to make things more accessible. What exactly what exactly is the plan for communities that still are not comfortable with going online, still don't have those abilities, whether it is older people or seniors or just people in the community? I know I have a lot of people that just don't want to go to the DMV. In the same respect, they don't want to go to the dentist or any of those kind of circumstances. So, can you just, it goes without saying that there have made significant improvements to the DMV, but it's not a place that people genuinely want to go to. So I'm wondering what kind of efforts you're making or how this modernization and technology thing kind of play together.
Tanya Laney, thank you so much for the question, and I'm thrilled to be able to answer this one because this is where my passion comes from with customer service. We are modernizing the way that we're modernizing. To your point, there's certain individuals that don't want to come into the DMV. And so they will do whatever it takes to not come into the DMV. So what that does is it frees up capacity at our windows for the customers that do need to come in, either because they have a complex transaction that can't be done online, or I will say in our rural communities, that might be the only interaction they have that month because they only make a trip into town once to get all their shopping and appointments done, and they just want to come in and say hi, and we're fine with that. We are building a model that accommodates that. We have our 18 offices across the state. We're freeing up capacity to move as many transactions online so that our customer service technicians at the window can give more one-on-one attention, and the customers can get in to see us even faster because we're not overloaded with customers that are coming in that don't need to be there. In addition, we have customers that have disabilities that may not allow them to interact with us online. We are taking that into consideration as we're building our programming, how we can best serve all populations. But it does free up that capacity, again, to allow the customers to come in. In addition, we will no longer have the issue of we only have 2 technicians that work out in our Hawthorne office. What if they have 20 customers that decide to visit them that day? The way that we're building our system, we can have a technician that has freed up capacity in a Las Vegas office virtually interact with that customer to walk them through a transaction and finish it so that regardless of the number of staff in an office, if a rural community gets overwhelmed with those that are walking in, somebody in a different location will be able to pick up that transaction and assist that customer so that we no longer have the issues of customers waiting or being turned away because we're at capacity.
And as you're developing some of the programming, obviously what we've seen on this committee is we don't want to over-customize some of our programs, so we run into the problem that we currently sit in where we can't have updates, we can't have any other modernization efforts because we're so customized. What kind of efforts are we making to make sure that we're including, programming that also creates some more efficiencies when it comes to people having not outstanding traffic warrants any longer, but any fines or fees that are associated with lapses in insurance or registration or re-registering vehicles. What are we doing to make sure that we're having some efficiencies where people can have more of a one-stop shop when they come into the DMV and they don't have to go down to the court or now call a collection agency or do all these things to clear up other fines within the system in order to get their license reinstated?
A great question again, Tanya Laney, for the record. Molly and I believe Molly touched on it a little bit earlier, and you'll hear about it in one of our other budget accounts. Where we can, we are partnering to get real-time information updates. MV Solutions is a great example for our IVP and insurance program. They will take the tier 1 level support that customers are calling in for now to see they received a letter in the mail or an email stating that they have a lapse of their insurance. Our systems will be updated real time with information on those situations now so we can give immediate feedback back to the customer. And in addition, our partners will be able to answer that tier 1 support, freeing up capacity of our staff to be able to handle the more complex issues of maybe somebody that's hasn't had a driver's license in a year and they need to know what they need to do to get reinstated through the courts. So wherever we can, we are updating our systems in real time with the new technology so that we're not having to go back and do a ton of research to see what happened to that customer's record and what they need to do to get back in good standings with the agency. So that's definitely what we look at when we're looking at different software products and partnerships is how can we make it the most efficient so that when the customer calls in, one, our ideal goal at the end is it's going to be one person, one record. So if you're calling in and you have a question about your driver's license, registration, insurance, your CDL, your business account with us over on the OBL side as a dealership or a salesperson, the technician will have all the information at their fingertips and not have to transfer them to 6 different departments to get that question answered. So that's a lot of what we looked at in our partnership integrations, is that we have the ability to have all the information in one spot and get it out to the customer instead of having to transfer them around or send them to different offices.
And just because, in addition, I know a lot of us receive calls from constituents and, you know, in addition to potholes that maybe I can't control and timing of lights down the roads and cones in construction areas, I'd say right up there is probably DMV questions. And a lot of times it has to do with people getting their license for the first time. So I know that we've had some private partnerships in the past that we've expanded to allow driver's ed courses. Do we have any other expansion of that kind of partnerships with, I guess, private industries and private companies in other areas, or is it just limited to driver's ed and those kind of testing?
A great question. Again, Tanya Laney for the record. So far in our partnerships for the new drivers, we've offered our Know to Drive online, where you can take the written test now from home. So that's one partnership that we have with an existing vendor that we had, which is ITI. They provide our kiosk services across the state and also our decal printers and decal stock. We expanded our relationship with them for the online drive tests. And then in addition, we are in creating the documentation now for a pilot program to allow a very similar model to what we have on the CDL side for the actual drive test portion. Right now, customers, their only option is to come to the DMV and have their drive test done. We are looking at partnering with drive schools. They already are educated and know what to teach the drivers, so why not allow them to also test the drivers on their knowledge, give them a certificate, and have them come to the DMV and be issued their driver's license. And so that is the next step in that program to enhance services to new drivers.
Thank you. I may ask one last question.
One last question.
Thank you. I'm also hearing this. Obviously, we want to make sure some of our communities, I know that are in my district, have apprehension and they're scared to go into the DMV. Some of our immigrant, lawfully documented, like members of our community, are scared to go in. There's language difficulties. There's just a fear. I know people have been arrested in the past at the DMV. And sometimes, obviously, we want to protect against fraud. And, I know that you are on the forefront of that with some of the technology that you use about facial recognition and identifying that. But is there anything that the agency is doing to do more outreach to get rid of that stigma and encourage people to come down to the DMV, get their licenses, provide their insurance, get those education pieces?
Thank you for the question again, Tanya Laney, for the record. Yes, to answer the short answer to your question is yes. Molly had touched on it earlier. Right now, the existing relationship with the bulk of that citizenship that is served at our DMVs are done through registration services. They currently have to come into the office and utilize window space to assist those customers. They bring those transactions in bulk, and normally are getting transactions done for 4 to 5 people at one time on the registration side. Molly had touched on it earlier that we're building, in parallel effort of serving the individual customer, we're also building a business portal. What that business portal will allow those services to do is to start doing those transactions online. Again, following the roadmap of the project, registration and titling services would be the first service offering that's eligible to be offered online to that constituency, and then it would be followed up with credentialing services when we get to a certain point. Still, at the federal level, there is not a desire to go 100% electronic and no in-person visit for credentialing for obvious reasons. So we're not there yet. But we are, with our partnership with American Association of Motor Vehicle Administrators and the partnership that we have with our other jurisdictional DMVs, we are definitely keeping an eye on that technology as things advance. You had mentioned facial recognition. That's a great program. It's not there yet where you can do really good facial comparison to catch the fraud with just like a selfie captured on a cell phone, for example. That's still technology that's housed in a DMV office for good reason. It's more secure. It's in a place where we have our compliance enforcement investigators there to catch somebody that's on a wanted list, things of that nature. But we are seeing a desire and a shift of those transactions moving to a technology base to where the DMV of the future, you would never have to come in at all. Right now, if you are I call it a normal customer, so please don't take offense to this. If you are an average, I just have a driver's license and a vehicle registered with the DMV, you only have to come in and see us one time every 16 years right now. If you don't have anything extraordinary, you can do your one-time driver's license renewal online, which is an 8-year credential, and you can do your registration renewals online. So outside of that, we have a population of customers that maybe have an annual basis that they need to come in because they have a progressive medical condition, or there's another enhancement that's tied to their driver's license that requires us to have an annual in-person visit with them. I don't envision that those are going to be going away anytime soon, just because that takes visual inspection by a staff member, and those visual inspections are in place for a reason, right? To keep our roads safer and to protect the driver themselves as well. But where we can, we're absolutely moving those services online to help our population that do have a fear of government interaction or a disability that just doesn't allow them to engage with us online. We welcome our partners that we have. AAA is another great partner. We have customers that have anxiety going into a DMV office that might have 200 or 300 customers waiting in the lobby. They can go to a AAA location now and get simple registration and title transactions done with maybe only 2 or 3 other customers waiting with them to get those transactions done. So it's definitely something, as we're moving through our transformation effort, that we're very cognizant of, and that we're making sure that we're taking all populations of our customers into consideration as we're building these processes. And for the business portal, for the registration services, we wouldn't limit it to just registration services. Our hope through that business portal is that we can start getting community partners engaged, such as senior centers, insurance companies that have a customer in front of them already obtaining insurance, so that, again, maybe they don't have to complete a visit with the DMV because they're doing a simple registration, and the insurance company can offer that service as an additional service in their portfolio to help the customer while they're already there obtaining insurance, to complete the registration transaction and avoid a visit to the DMV altogether. So it's definitely something that's on our roadmap that we're taking into consideration as we build for the future DMV.
Thank you, Madam Director. And I'm going to just ask you to just focus on the question. You're very passionate about what you do, and that's awesome, but we have a couple of other budgets that we need to get through. Is that okay? So thank you.
Tanya Laney, for the record, got it.
I appreciate that. Assemblymember Brown-May.
Thank you. I feel like we're in the story of DMV today, and I'm very, very engaged with it. Thank you so much. It's really great to see you all here today. Love what the DMV is doing, and I'm often surprised when I go online to attempt to do a transaction that I could not do 6 months earlier. And so congratulations on the efforts and the success that you are having. Following up on what your last statement was, I'm just curious to know, do you have a partnership with DWSS, right? So Welfare and Social Services, with regard to IDs in a box? And whether you have that information or not. But I know that that is a request out from one of our sister agencies to be able to expedite identifications for folks who are homeless. I'm curious to know, do you know?
Tanya Laney, for the record, I will make this answer very short. Sean Sever, our legislative liaison, is working with that agency currently to try and find out what's behind that request and to see how we can assist.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I do have questions with regard to the OCIO and your partnership and the transformation effort. And part of your presentation, you noted if y'all are the last ones on the mainframe environment, that you're looking at a pretty sizable amount of money. So I'm curious to know, have you been in contact with the OCIO office? What's the plan? It looks like you're planning to migrate into the cloud environment. What does that current effort look like?
I thank you for the question, Assemblymember Brown May. Susie Pollard for the record. We have had several meetings with OCIO on our mainframe lift and refactor project. In particular, the state chief technology officer, David Axtell, was provided all technical artifacts and had follow-up discussions with our team and the vendor that's going to be doing the lift and refactor to ensure that it aligns with the OCIO and State of Nevada security policies and procedures. He will be providing a review summary and through the conversations that I've had with him, he's saying this is a great path forward, and anybody else struggling, they're going to be looking at us on how we accomplished it. Additionally, our senior IT security officer has been engaged not just with the Office of the CIO and the security team, but has done a full review of the project and will be integral to ensuring the Nevada DMV is following all appropriate security policies and procedures around data and our system. We do have an approved technology investment request on file and have had several meetings with OCIO to align on their exit strategy with the mainframe operations and support. They did share the mainframe costs were going to continue to increase, and they said in the neighborhood of between $3 million is today's cost, but up to $9 million per fiscal year, dependent if we were the last remaining agency. We've also discussed with OCIO a actual decommission strategy of the agency's data and system once our AWS lift and refactor is live in the cloud and operational. So our current operational data will be migrated and transformed into the cloud. That will allow us to continue to serve the customers and support the DT, but in total alignment with OCIO's wish to get out of that, operational support, because they're having the same challenges we are of retaining staff. We don't even have any original coders of record on the CAR system, so it's urgent that we get off it, and I thank you for the question.
Thank you for the clarification. I have another, thank you, Chair. So there's a request for one-time highway fund appropriations, 6.6 million over the biennium to migrate the existing legacy system on the mainframe, right? Can you talk a little bit about the legacy system functionality and then what is not going to be replaced by the Department Transformation Effort project?
Thank you for the question, Molly Lennon, for the record. Our program effort on DTE is product-driven. We are delivering for customer-facing services. We will be taking a lot of the UI and the transactional and management of data on, but we are not looking at decommission of the dozens of items that sit on the mainframe that support all of that activity on our web, all of the activity in our customer-facing offices. So the mainframe effort will allow modernization of the code to move out of the current archaic, I'll use that word again, our archaic solution into a more modern platform where we are already planning on housing our data, and they will be able to decommission all of the siloed integrations and data information into that platform.
Thank you. Just following up on that, what's the plan? Do you have the delineated plan to migrate the data over to the?
Susie Pollard for the record. Thank you, Assemblymember Brown May. That's part of the lift and refactor. So we have incredible partner alignment with the data needs of what the program are and where they're on the roadmap. We're working very closely with our AWS partner who have experts, not only in the modern cloud technology, but partners that have done these successful, complex data migrations to the cloud. And so we do have a roadmap timeline with them established on. It's going to be an effort to get it up so that we can continue to be operational. But the outcome of this is our data will be available in the cloud, and as we start decoupling and the products come online, we'll be able to turn off certain functionality. So some of that functionality is kind of needed today. I would say it's like, think of us as a core highway, and what DTE is currently working on right now is some of the toll booths and exchanges to get a lot of the transactions online. So if I can, trying to keep it simple. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblymember. Senator Titus.
Thank you, Chair, and great presentation and updates. Really appreciate it. And good to know, Director, that I've been in my rural DMV in Yarrington where suddenly we had it's time for harvest. We have migrant workers there, and they're coming in for their driver's license, and I show up and I need something that I had to go there with. 20 people in front of me, and it's good to know, and only 2 people in the office, good to know that now that virtual potential opportunity to offload that, it's great news because it does happen. It's unpredictable sometimes, and especially in the rural areas, so thank you for that. So today we've heard terms like archaic systems, which I'm an archaic system. I own it. We've heard the word teeter-totters for the younger folks in the room. And then the other day when we were asking the question that I'm about to ask you, the NDOT used the term that, in their crystal ball, it's covered with asphalt. So I remember that a lot since. So you may not be able to answer this question I'm going to ask you, but this is a crystal ball question. When would the department staff or contractor support, when would department staff or contractor support for the legacy system data no longer be required once migrated off the Office of Chief Information Officer mainframe environment? So this is a futuristic question.
Thank you for the question. That's a great question, Senator Titus. Susie Pollard for the record. Our goal is to be off in fiscal year 27. Now, as we are working again with our partner, there may be some leftover legacy tasks that need to be cleaned up. And so we would want to make sure that all of that has been done. Our agreement with the Office of the CIO is, and before they would allow a decommission, is that we are up and operational and successfully able to do processing as we are today, so no impacts.
Thank you for that. I would assume we'll get updates. If there's a delay, we'll hear about that, and good luck on making that happen in 2027. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, for the question.
You bet, Senator. Any other questions on this budget? Budget 4715, automation? Okay, seeing none, thank you so much, Administrator Pollard. We appreciate it. We will now continue in the hearing. For DMV, we're going to go to budget 4731. Welcome, and please go ahead and begin when you're ready.
Good morning, committee members. For the record, my name is Jessica Vargas, V-A-R-G-A-S, Administrator of Central Services and Records Division, budget account 4731. The insurance verification program, known as Nevada Liability Insurance Validated Electronically, Nevada Live, is comprised of 21 FTEs. This program falls under our Central Services and Records Division and actively verifies that owners of motor vehicles registered in Nevada maintain Nevada liability insurance. Revenues generated from reinstatement fees and fines after suspensions for failing to maintain insurance. Today, I would like to highlight the following decision units affecting Nevada Live. Decision Unit E231, this is a technical enhancement as this budget account is fee-funded and the fees in excess of operational expenses get redirected back to the Highway Fund. Decision Unit E300 requests continue funding. We're requesting continued funding for software and contract fees for the MV Solutions contract. This contract is the electronic compliance and non-compliance reporting for insurance agents and companies. Decision Unit E301, we're requesting ongoing annual software licensing for our shared vehicle worth database. This program is shared with our field services division, budget 4735, and provides staff with access to searching vehicle worth as well as verifying VIN information. And that's all I have for you guys, so I'm available if you have any questions.
Thank you, Administrator Vargas. That was a very short report, but we still do have just a couple of questions. And we're going to start with Chair Watts.
Thank you, Chair. So could you discuss why the insurance verification system needs additional integration with the DTE system?
Molly Lennon for the record. MB Solutions, we have proofed the integrations for Salesforce, not finalized that connection. The planned effort is we're looking at completing in fiscal year '26. We will actually be integrating both with the legacy solution to improve potentially latency and outage connectivity for NV Live and insurers, but also Salesforce to support future state and real-time insurance verification. It will also provide benefits to the NV Live staff for more streamlined access to the verification.
Thank you. And then, so just to be super clear, what is the current projected timeline to fully decommission the legacy system here, the NV Live?
Molly Lennon, for the record. We've discussed the mainframe lift and refactor a lot, rather than get into technical details. NV Live is a homegrown solution that sits in our legacy system. So until we have lifted our mainframe and modernized the code, we can't completely decommission it. We will be moving as much of the functionality into a more efficient program effort like MVS in the meantime, and we'll be able to decommission once the mainframe lift is complete.
Thank you. So just to make sure I'm clear, we just talked about goal for full mainframe transition is end of fiscal year 2027, hopefully. And so essentially that timeline and that requirement is also critical to fully decommission. That's linked up with the full decommissioning of NV Live, correct?
Molly Lennon, for the record, that's correct. Our goal is fiscal year '27, and it is linked up.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, and then could you just discuss any of the factors that contribute, because I know that there's been some delays here with this system as well. Can you just discuss, I mean, is that, just provide some clarity, is that linked to some of the issues with the mainframe system and some of the things that we've already heard with some of the other transformation efforts where we're essentially as far as we can go on the legacy system? So yeah, can you just give us some additional insight into why we've seen some delays in the integration and implementation of this system?
Molly Lennon, for the record, thank you for the question. Yes, the main reason is resourcing, the sheer amount of effort we're asking our MOVE-IT staff to work through. Any integration we do impacts our legacy and our DTE effort. We are not technically delayed. Just to be clear, the original plan was to complete implementation by fiscal year '26 of our integrations, standing up our call center, and also our insurance portal. The insurance portal is live, and we had POC'd those integrations. We are on track to finish that in fiscal year '26. You will see an ask for fiscal year '27 because we are looking at implementing improvements to our SR22 and SR26 functionality, which is also something that MV Solutions can offer.
Okay, because my understanding of it was that this would be impacted on that with that updated timeline. So I appreciate the clarity there. I think that's all my questions for right now. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Assemblymember Dickman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good to see you all. Could you just talk a little bit about the new system features that will be implemented in the FY 2027 and how those new features would further assist with motor vehicle insurance verification?
Thank you for the question. Jessica Vargas, for the record. So MV Solutions right now is taking all the insurance data by the insurance companies and sending it directly to the department, whereas where each insurance company used to send it individually. So we now get a bulk access from insurance verification, MVS. MVS will then be able to update the coverage, notify us when a customer gets a lapse of insurance. So we'll get real-time notification, and the customer will be notified at a sooner rate rather than waiting for our monthly files to be delivered. They can also verify the SR22 and SR26, where right now it's a manual process where we get them by fax or mail, or a customer has to deliver it in person. They will go and communicate with all the insurance companies and see who picked up that coverage.
Oh, sounds like it's going to be a lot more efficient.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblymember. That's part of the antiquated facts. Senator Titus just. Well, okay. All right. Well, do we have any other questions for this budget? 4731, verification of insurance. Okay, seeing none. Thank you so much, Administrator Vargas. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll continue the hearing with our last budget for this morning. 4740, compliance enforcement. Oh, to Las Vegas. Okay, thank you for being here. Go ahead and begin when you're ready.
Good morning, Chair Taylor, Chair Watts, committee members, and Director Laney, who I'm very happy to see in the room. For the record, my name is J.D. Decker. I'm the administrator of the Compliance Enforcement Division of the Department of Motor Vehicles, budget account 4740. The Compliance Enforcement Division, also known as CED, is comprised of 84 FTEs, including 18 peace officers, 14 non-sworn investigators, 29 inspectors and appraisers, and associated support staff. We're located across offices in Reno, Carson City, and the Las Vegas metro offices. CED is the regulatory and law enforcement arm of the Department of Motor Vehicles and consists of our occupational licensing section, vehicle inspection station and appraiser section, industry compliance sections, and our criminal investigation section. CED investigates fraudulent identity documents, stolen vehicles, titling and registration fraud, and regulates the motor vehicle industry, including prosecuting deceptive trade violations. CED investigations lead us to fugitive and stolen vehicle recovery, chop shops, illegal parts and racing activities, and stolen vehicle rings who use out-of-state titling and registration loopholes to defraud Nevada consumers in the private marketplace. Our enforcement activities also include citing violators who evade Nevada laws requiring motor vehicle licensing, registration, and insurance to legally drive Nevada's roadways. I would like to highlight the following decision units in the division's submitted budget. Decision Unit E307, 2 new investigator positions. This decision unit requests funding for 2 new sworn investigator positions and related vehicles, uniforms, and equipment, who will primarily focus on motor vehicle fraud and criminal activity, while also addressing public safety at DMV's Administrative Hearings Court. I'm happy to answer any questions the committee might have.
Thank you so much, Administrator Decker. And I said thanks for being here. I should have said thanks for being there. But we appreciate the report nonetheless. We do have just a couple of questions. Assemblymember Hibbets.
Thank you, Chair. Why is the department requesting 2 new compliance enforcement investigator positions when there appears to only be a slight increase in vehicle fraud and criminal activity?
J.D. Decker for the record, to Assemblymember Higgins. Thank you for the question. So there are 2 reasons that we're requesting new investigators. We've had a 23% increase in stolen vehicles from fiscal year 21. And we're currently in this fiscal year to date, equal to our last year's total. So we do believe that there's been a significant increase in cases, but we've also experienced a 63% increase in personnel hours over FY 2021. Yesterday, we served a search warrant on a illegal salvage operation. We processed close to 100 vehicles. We towed an 80,000-pound vehicle crusher. And 15 officers spent the entire day, and we'll spend a lot of time into next week. That counts as 1 case on our statistics. So there has been an increase in the types of fraud that we're experiencing and the complexity of the investigations required to address that. The second reason is that our hearings division, which is essentially an administrative court, has over the past few years requested security services from CED based on specific incidences as well as general safety and security concerns. So we believe that the one officer is being requested to address the increases in cases and complexity, and the other officer is a position that we would use to augment safety and security at the Administrative Hearings Division. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And Chair, I have a couple of follow-ups, if you don't mind. Number 1, how do you tow an 80,000-pound vehicle crusher? And never mind, we'll skip that one. How would the two new investigator positions help the department reduce the existing case backlog?
JD Decker for the record. Thank you for the question. Assemblymember Hibbets. Having an additional investigator would allow us to immediately assign cases that are in the queue that are aged, as well as spreading out the case count between the position that would be on call for the Administrative Hearings Division. So 2 new investigators would allow us to immediately assign cases from the queue that haven't been assigned or our backlog, and allow us to have 2 more bodies to handle the caseload. Thank you.
And one more follow-up, if you don't mind, Chair. Just out of curiosity, I assume you do, but for the record, do you coordinate with local law enforcement in your stolen vehicle investigations, such as the Viper Auto Theft Task Force?
JD Decker for the record, to Assemblymember Hibbets. Thank you for the question. We do, in fact, after the operation I discussed yesterday, our lead investigator spent the evening with Metro Viper as a permanent member of the task force on another investigation that they were conducting. We work very closely with Metro Viper. We work very closely with other agencies that handle cases that are within our jurisdiction, so that we're combining resources and being as efficient as possible, and making sure that we're able to handle cases that are within our targeted jurisdiction while utilizing resources available to us. Thank you.
Thank you for the information, and Chair, thank you for the latitude.
You're very welcome, Assemblymember. Assemblymember Dickman?
Thank you so much, Chair. I just wanted to ask, the compliance enforcement investigator obviously probably isn't going to be using their time finding people who have expired tags, but I get so many calls and texts about people with plates a year and more out of date. And I'm wondering if with these new positions, would that free up others to do that?
JD Decker for the record. Thank you for the question, Assemblymember Dickman. We do have a program in which we try to we directly enforce those provisions, but because of our size, it was never intended that the department be the only one enforcing that. So we work with Highway Patrol, Las Vegas Metro, Reno PD, Sparks PD, to target at their discretion and availability the expired tags, no plates, which lead to no insurance and suspended license issues in those jurisdictions. Any addition of investigators to CED that help us handle the cases within our jurisdiction would absolutely impact our ability to address those as well in the way that we currently do. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have talked offline about this a couple of times, so I appreciate anything you do to help. Thanks, Chair.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Assemblymember. Assemblymember Mosca.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for all that you do for our state and learning more about this. You talked a little bit about the need for security concerns at the offices, the DMV's Office of Administrative Hearings, but could you talk more about why there's a need for that? Like, what is happening?
JD Decker for the record. Thank you for the question, Assemblymember Mosca. If the chair would allow, I would like to call up Chief Judge, Administrative Law Judge Jonathan Lord. He has a wonderful presentation for you, and I'd be happy to talk about it as well. But if Judge Lord could come up, please. Thank you.
Presentation?
I'm sorry, Chair. He will answer the question by discussing some of the reasons the hearings division.
Much better answer. Much better answer, Administrator Decker.
Thank you.
Good morning, committee members. My name is Jonathan Lord, L-O-R-D, and I'm the Chief Administrative Law Judge for the Nevada DMV's Office of Administrative Hearings. I'm testifying to support the CED's request for an additional sworn officer and to encourage the committee to take a proactive approach regarding the safety issues directly affecting the judges assigned to the DMV's hearing division, its staff, and other employees of the Sahara DMV. First, I'd like to give the committee some insight into the current layout of the hearings division and how it creates safety concerns for those that work there. When a party or witness enters the building where the hearing's being held, that person has unrestricted access to the employee-only areas of the Sahara DMV, the staff offices, and the administrative area where all the currency's kept. This is of even greater concern than immediately obvious because the entrance to the hearings division does not have a metal detector or any other security feature to protect the judges or staff, and there's no way to determine whether a person is carrying a concealed weapon. Next, you may not know that the DMV's hearings office does not have dedicated hearings rooms. The judge and the parties sit around a conference table in the judge's office. This means the parties are usually seated within an arm's length of the judge. This in of itself creates a security concern if a party or witness in a case becomes aggressive. On top of that, the judge's office only has one door, which means that the judge's ability to exit the room quickly could be easily blocked by a possible assailant. Given the physical layout of our division, we're thankful there's only been one incident where an employee was physically assaulted by an irate party. But unfortunately, that's not the only situation that's raised legitimate security concerns for our judges and staff. Please remember that our hearings address issues that create high levels of anxiety for many of the parties because the outcome of our hearings can directly affect a person's ability to work. Not only do our hearings impact a person's ability to drive to their job, they also determine whether a person is entitled to obtain or keep a personal business license, such as an automobile salesperson's license, a mission inspector's license, or CDL instructor's license. In addition to determining whether a business's license should be revoked altogether in the case of automobile dealerships, auto mechanic shops, body shops, CDL training centers, and the like. The stakes are obviously very high for the people involved in these cases, which often results in them exhibiting bad behavior during their hearings. Because of this, we've had situations where a party has waited outside the DMV to confront the judge who has just heard their case. We had one situation where a party began taking photos of the personal items in the judge's office, including photographs of her children. We had a sergeant at the Nevada Highway Patrol report to a judge that he believed a party in a hearing was carrying a concealed firearm. We routinely receive phone calls from agitated parties insisting they meet with the judge in person before or after their hearing. And in at least one of those instances, the person was attempting to intimidate the judge. We also often have parties appear at their hearings in very agitated states, requiring the hearings office staff to seek assistance from a compliance enforcement officer before allowing the person to access the judge's office. The frequency of these incidents is clearly on the rise, so we now require a compliance enforcement officer to be present at all the hearings where a person appears in person, but regrettably, there are many times when an officer is not available to step in and help. While none of these situations have resulted in serious injury to a judge or staff member, they have all caused concern for employee safety as they would in any courthouse setting. It is unfortunate the level of civility seen in Clark County courts and the DMV in general has severely declined over the past several years. I'm sure I don't need to remind you that in the past year, a Clark County district judge was attacked in her own courtroom, and in another incident, an attorney brought a firearm to a deposition with tragic results. It's for all these reasons I support the CD's request for additional sworn officers, which will be a proactive step in ensuring the continued safety of the employees at the Sahara DMV, and in particular that of the judges and staff at the DMV's hearings division. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Lord. We appreciate that. Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Judge. Thank you for sharing that and really painting the picture for us, and thank you for all that you do. The Sahara DMV is in my district, and so definitely want to make sure, all folks feel safe in Assembly District 14. So thank you so much. And just my last question then, because of course the compliance and enforcement officer will now would be assigned to the administrative hearings based on this. How would that assignment limit the division's investigative work?
JD Decker for the record. Thank you for the question, Assemblymember Mosca. So we currently anticipate that we would assign court duties on a rotation basis. It's not a position that we could fill permanently at the hearings division and expect that someone would apply for that position and want to do it. And the Hearings Division has a policy in which all in-person hearings require a CED officer to be present as a proactive approach. But not all of those hearings are conducted in person. So we anticipate that one of the investigator positions would be assigned to court duties, bailiff duties on a rotating basis. And so it wouldn't be one PCN. We would use the new position to spread caseload out to the point where each CED officer could be assigned to bailiff duties 1 day a month, yet still manage their caseload and case count. Thank you.
Well, thank you. That makes sense. And again, thank you for all that you do. Thank you, Chair.
You're welcome, Assembly Member. Do we have any other questions? Any other questions for Administrator Decker? Budget 4740. Okay, seeing none. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for the presentation. Keep that fight going. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Director.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, then now we'll close the hearing for the Department of Motor Vehicles budgets. 4716, 4715, 4731, and 4740. So we're now down to the final item on our agenda, that is public comment. If you're here in Carson City or there in Las Vegas and would like to make public comment, please come forward at this time. Okay, seeing none, AVH, we will go to the phone lines. Anyone phone in to make public comment?
Thank you, Chair. The public lines are open and working. However, there are no callers to provide public comment at this time.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for your work this morning. We are adjourned.